Tomb Raider, The Angel of Darkness, adapted from the novelization by J.R. Milward. Based on an original story by Murti Schofield. With J.R. Milward and Adamm Khuevrr. With music by Peter Connolly and Martin Iverson. Episode 3.
It feels different when you wake up as a fugitive. The sleep I had craved slipped from me too quickly to enjoy any refreshment. I woke fully, stumbling to my feet before I'd even registered the daylight, expecting to see gendarmes with their faces pressed against the windows. My body had not released its tension all night. I felt coiled like a spring, ready to run, ready to fight. But I was alone. No faces. No gendarme, no dogs. Only birdsong and the ever-present background hush of the city entered my impromptu hiding place. I curled my lip at the stench I'd been too tired to notice last night. The tram was littered with garbage and signs of rats. I couldn't help a shudder. Give me animated, rotting corpses any day. Rats are just creepy. There were at least a dozen things I would rather have done. Brush my teeth, a hot shower, breakfast, and hire an exterminator were just a few. But instead, I pulled the notebook from my pocket and perched on the cleanest seat as I leafed through it, hunting for clues to my next move. Page after page made me shake my head. Werner had been meticulous, I'd give him that. Eckhart's commission had involved histories even I had never heard of. The Obscura paintings. 5 15th century works of black alchemic magic. All lost, hidden by the Lux Veritatis. There's a symbol here, like an arrow. Lux Veritatis, light of truth. A secret 12th century order of warrior monks who hid the Obscura paintings in the 1400s. Said to possess the 3 periapt shards, artifacts of power, crystalline shards shaped like spearheads, weapons of light. They were looted from underground cities in ancient Turkey. Perhaps Werner began his search with this group. It certainly seemed a logical place to start. I felt my palms itch at the mention of an archaeological site I hadn't yet explored. There was more, lots more. Intricate sketches and doodles plastered whole pages with Da Vincian elegance, although there was nothing elegant about some of the subject matter. Most appeared to cover biblical references to Nephilim, a name that seemed dimly familiar, and an entity known as the Black Alchemist. The melodrama made me roll my eyes. The sun was rising rapidly, although my hideaway remained deep in shadow. I was getting frustrated, but then the most recent entries caught my eye. Terrified to go out. Monstrum terrorizing the streets. Carvier says she has a security pass for the digs in her office. Louis Bouchard, useful contact. Purchased handgun, discretion assured. Tried contacting Lara again in London. No response. Still not forgiven me for Egypt. Deciphered the encrypted map in Vasili's engravings. One of the paintings is beneath the Louvre, where the latest archaeological digs are. Hang on, that rings a bell. 5 obscura engravings, drawn copies of the paintings, contain encoded maps of each painting's location. A metallic symbol is hidden beneath the surface of each painting. Check with Carvier about X-ray facilities in Louvre. Only after Carvier for her X-rays, Werner. You old romantic. You were onto something, though, weren't you? I scrutinised the entries again, nagged by the lure of a mystery. His handwriting had grown steadily worse, the newest entries penned in little more than a scrawl. But one item in all his notations stood out. Louis Bouchard, useful contact, purchased handgun, discretion assured. If Werner could find him and get assistance in his work, why shouldn't I? I made up my mind. If I was going to find this murderer, retracing Werner's last steps would be my first task. If I had to go after the paintings myself to do it, then I would. Perhaps this Bouchard, whoever he was, would be a good place to begin. My stomach growled, making me frown. I had a credit card, but what good would that do if the police had made me their number one suspect? One transaction, and Interpol would descend on my head faster than Pierre Dupont milking an opportunity for sarcasm. There were a few euros in my pocket, enough for a coffee, preferably somewhere discreet. It took me less than 5 minutes to climb my way out of the hole where I'd spent the night. The chain-link fencing was rusty, and I was thankful to be wearing denim. A lighting factory, its windows broken and brickwork graffitied, rose above a skyline that had seen better days. The air was crisp after the night's rain. I skirted puddles and listened to the gutters dripping, keeping a watchful eye out as I moved onto the streets, not wanting to be surprised by anyone. But no one seemed to be out this early. I could hear the Seine lapping against the wharf as I paused beside a boarded-up club. The snarling dragon emblazoned above the doors would probably have looked a lot more impressive at night, lit by garish red neon. But at this hour, it felt more like a guard dog, staring balefully from behind a gate, prepared to bite if I strayed too close. I almost jumped. A woman had tottered from a nearby doorway without noticing me. As I watched, she fumbled for a lighter in her little black handbag and, once found, took a deep pull of a cigarette, breathing out a plume of smoke with apparent relish. Her 2-inch high heels, scarlet PVC jacket, and obscenely low cleavage all conspired to make my eyebrow rise. Oh well, nothing for it. Not a lot of passing trade at this hour.
It's early yet. Move along, ma chère. You make the place look crowded.
Have you worked in this neighbourhood for long?
What can I do for you, chérie?
I'm looking for someone you might know. Name of Bouchard?
You won't find him here, ma chère. He did run the club, Le Serpent Rouge, but had to move premises. There was a lot of trouble, I heard. Staff problems. Things needed to lie quiet for a while.
Oh? What sort of trouble?
You're not from around here, ma chère. His staff has been dying on the job. No one knows why or how. I did hear someone say it was the monstrum, but who knows for sure. Bouchard's people, very messy business.
And you've no idea where Bouchard is?
What do you want with a dangerous individual like Bouchard?
I'm trying to track down a friend's movements.
Lost, is he?
Dead. But he made contact with Bouchard before he checked out.
Tell you what, I know a guy who used to work at Le Serpent Rouge before all this business closed the place down. Name's Pierre. He was a barman, now owns the cafe at Place d'Arcade, Café Metro. He's just around the corner. He's a total loser, but you never know. Might be worth a shot.
Better than anything I've had so far.
I didn't catch your name. Janice. Everyone knows me around here. But you watch out, ma chère. Bouchard's a mean operator, and these latest attacks have targeted him hard.
Does anyone know who's causing Bouchard all this grief? Or why?
No, or they're not saying. The monstrum has got everyone too scared to talk. Oh, Bouchard can handle it all right. No one better. But the way his people has been dying, So ugly. And that poor woman.
What woman?
Some woman called Khuevrr. She worked at the Louvre, it said on the radio. I don't want to talk about it. Khuevrr.
I cursed, giving myself a mental kicking. I should have been more alert, even given her warning that Werner's killer might have been following me. But why had he, or she, killed Khuevrr and not me? Why was I still alive? Were they shadowing me now, determined to kill everyone I spoke to? I looked at her, noting all the details of her person, and concern gripped me. Was I putting her in danger just by talking to her?
No, you be careful, ma chère. There are a lot of sickos loose on the streets.
Yeah.
That's okay. Some of us like it that way.
Whatever raid your tomb, I shot back mentally. But my heart wasn't really in it. I pulled my jacket a little closer as I followed the peeling road signs to Place d'Arcade, past shuttered windows and storefronts. Not for the first time, I wished I had eyes in the back of my head. The streets were deserted, but didn't feel empty. They were possessed by the same thing I had seen haunting Janice's eyes. Fear, suspicion, rumour and intrigue, the most cunning horsemen of the serial killer, polluted the buildings. Wherever I looked, I saw signs of neglect and discontent. From the boarded-up shops and old blood splattered in the gutter, to slogans scrawled across crumbling brickwork. A chill wind shook new growth on the park trees as I walked past, smelling of spring and optimism. But the contrast with Paris's human population could not have been starker. Café Metro was not hard to find, and even harder to miss once found. A twee-striped awning kept the frontage in shadow. One look confirmed the metalwork had rusted solid. My stomach rumbled at the sight of a menu propped up outside, but a closer inspection revealed it to have faded beyond all recognition. Net curtains hid a gloomy interior, but at least one customer seemed to have found it to their liking. An honest-to-God Bruff Superior was propped on its stand by the door, shouldering a travelling rug and panniers with the kind of nonchalance normally associated with Western gunslingers relaxing at a bar. I would have staked my life it was over 1,000 cc's. Sweet little machine, I thought, pushing open the door. A quick scan revealed I was the only customer. If you have ever been to a Parisian cafe, you probably need no description, for this was as uniformly French as anything calling itself Café Metro could possibly be, except for the smell. There was an excess of tobacco, unwashed bodies, burnt coffee, and recycled lager that all the delicate floral air fresheners in the world could not have disguised. Lovely. As I stood there, a man appeared from a back room, backside first, carrying cardboard boxes and swearing. Sweat stained the armpits in front of his too large football shirt, and old gravy marks infested his apron. His face was that of a weasel, pinched, suspicious, and weak-chinned. I suddenly got the impression he had lost a lot of weight in a very short space of time. There was a sickly look to him that had nothing to do with following a healthy diet and getting plenty of exercise. Are you Pierre?
Possibly. What can I get you?
Information.
Really? Well, everyone wants something for nothing.
It needn't be for nothing. We could trade.
Trade?
You used to work at Le Serpent Rouge. I need to find your ex-boss, Bouchard.
You don't look like police.
No, but I do deal with problems. Sort them out.
And run errands, no doubt.
If need be. And they pay well enough.
What sort of problems?
What sort of problems do you have? Any situations need clearing up? Difficulties removed?
In exchange for information, I would be sure. That's dangerous information.
I'm a dangerous girl. And right now, I'm losing patience.
Well, I do have a situation that needs tidying up. A retrieval job. Something I forgot to pick up from La Sapin Rouge when I left in a hurry. It's mine, and I want it back.
Why don't you just pick it up yourself?
2 guesses.
Bouchard? The Monstrum?
Don't joke about the monstrum. Bouchard ran a lot of operations there. The place will be staked out.
Just tell me where the item is at the club.
Come closer. It's small. Small enough to fit inside one of the stage lights. The one that doesn't work.
That's it. Okay, I can work with that. How do I get into the club?
With this. This will get you in behind the stage area at the back. Return what's mine to me here. And I'll put you in touch with Louis Bichard.
I'm sure he'll be glad to hear from you again.
He isn't going to. I'll just tell you where to find him. Then it's up to you.
Okay. And if this doesn't work out, I know where to find you. Don't I, Pierre? His Adam's apple bobbed, and he might have tried a witty comeback had the phone not started ringing. He shot me a desperate look and turned away, intent on his call. Weasels. I took a quick visit to the ladies, much against my better judgment, and was just about to leave when my heart lurched to a halt. Over in the corner sat a man who must have been sitting there the whole time. He wasn't actually hidden, just unassuming. I feigned checking my pockets as I noted details from the corner of my eye. Dusty old fatigues, navy and white shirt covering a modest build. His dark hair fell unconcerned across his eyes, and 2 days' worth of stubble fuzzed the edges of his goatee. His unsmiling gaze was absorbed on the paper spread in front of him. A shoulder rig for a small sidearm hung at his side, glaringly empty. He was maybe in his late 20s, early 30s tops. I caught a tapping sound from behind me and spun to see Pierre gesturing to a cup of coffee to go steaming on the counter. Still deep in his call, he nevertheless mouthed, "On the house." I picked it up without thinking and was still preoccupied as I made my way to the door. And caught the stranger looking at me. For a moment, our eyes locked. I was chilled to the marrow, so violently I felt my heart skip a beat. He recognised me. I had no idea who this man was, but he knew me the way a stalker would know his victim, or a predator know its prey. Then, just as quickly, he sighed and turned the paper over, sipping his own coffee as though I was no more important than Pierre's phone call. I left, slamming the door behind me. Careful, Lara. This is called paranoia. I kept my head down and eyes alert as I retraced my route back to the club, sidestepping a gaunt shopkeeper sweeping out the doorway of his pawnbroker's. He muttered something obscene, sneering at me, but I ignored him. My heart was thumping in a way it never had before. The stranger had known me, and yet feigned disinterest, and that was frightening. It was like scanning a seemingly empty patch of forest, only to realise too late that a tiger was staring back at you, preparing to strike. For a moment, I knew how Pierre must have felt. "Hey, didn't you hear me? I'm trying to keep us alive here." Sometimes my subconscious really gets on my nerves. What? You think I'm not being careful? I think we're stressed and worried and in danger and loving every minute of it. Oh, come on. When did I turn into a masochist? Don't change the subject. We've got to be careful, but at this rate, you'll find Werner's murderer only to beg them to kill us.
Stop looking for trouble in strange men and focus on the task at hand. Didn't I pick you up when I found that dream god idol in the British Museum? Damn it. I shook my head, suddenly angry. I was no rabbit or coward. Whoever the man was, I was not going to let him or any other imagined enemies intimidate me. I was just jumpy. A perfectly understandable reaction given my circumstances over the last 24 hours. Anyone else would have felt the same way. Breaking into Le Serpent Rouge appealed to my sudden need to do something. My head has always felt clear after strenuous work, and the last thing I wanted was to talk to more absent-minded Parisians. Or suffer a psychological breakdown. The stage door was tucked away down an alley. Old posters were seemingly the only thing holding the bricks underneath together. Making sure I was alone, relatively speaking, I slipped in and stood listening for several minutes as my eyes adjusted to the semi-darkness. Not everyone bothers to listen properly when they enter somewhere new. It's an acquired skill. I gradually shut out the sound of my breathing and focused on the building talking to me. After Café Metro, I was not going to be surprised again. The corridor, with its peeling paintwork and plasterboard, branched into tiny offices and cubbyholes, perfect places for ambushes. My shoes might have squeaked on the tiled floor, but a layer of grime muffled any telltale noise as I crept around the corner. I spotted the guard through an open doorway, pacing the office as his radio popped and fizzed. He was clad entirely in dark grey. His shirt was emblazoned with the Red Dragon logo, and the butt of an automatic protruded from an easily reached holster. I took no chances. The moment he turned away, I pounced like a tiger taking down a fawn, pressing his carotid artery hard enough for him to pass out in my arms. Even if I had missed hearing his radio, the odour of his cheap cologne would have corroded my sinuses from 3 rooms away. I shoved his bulk under the desk, where it wouldn't be immediately obvious, and snatched his firearm in the process, an MV9 or some other cheap semi-automatic. Punny compared to my usual tastes, but its weight felt good in my hand. As an afterthought, I also pocketed a roll of notes from the stash piled on the desk. I was getting hungry. The coffee hadn't lasted long and wanted company, and for some reason the idea of rummaging in bins once I got back outside just didn't appeal. If Bouchard helped me, I'd be sure to reimburse him in the future. For the record, it had been a long time since I'd last been in a nightclub. I opened the door slowly as a glacier, scouting for trouble through the widening crack. The main dance hall looked as though Bouchard's relocation was in full swing. Packing cases for heavy-duty sound equipment stood like war memorials across a floor that could have accommodated 100 sweaty partygoers. Second-hand daylight filtered through frosted windows and cast a chilly blue tint over the room. I sidled across to the bar. Bottles and glasses were stacked in careless piles, some of them victims of a bar stool that had been toppled on its side in the haste to grab everything and leave. Squinting, I scanned the ceiling for any sign of the light Pierre had said held his treasure, and groaned. There must have been 100 of them, from tiny strobe LEDs to dangling monsters like mutant flower heads. It would take forever to search them all, unless... My gaze fell on the stage, and I smiled. Where there are buttons and levers, there are solutions. I mounted the stage, which was hardly worthy of the name, and perused the DJ's workstation until I found a likely switch. I can't help it. I'm a compulsive button pusher. I vaulted down and away from the speakers as fast as my legs would carry me, hands clamped to my ears. Beams of colour lanced across the floor, swaying like freaky lightsabers in time to the squealing electronic torture I had unleashed.
Dear God, why couldn't these people have preferred deep purple? I glanced up and saw with satisfaction that the lighting rigs were now fully operational, making my task of finding the defunct one a whole lot easier. Well, in theory at least. My instincts took over and were the only thing that saved my life. I ducked sideways behind the cover of a speaker case. Bullets pinged off the floor where I had been standing. The music was so loud I could barely hear the gunshots. But I did see the guards, 2 of them, hurrying over from a side door, no doubt alerted by my contribution to Parisian subculture. I cursed and readied my weapon, hoping I could avoid bloodshed. Persuading Bouchard to help me might be a little trickier if he learnt that I had taken down some of his men. I sighted from behind my flimsy shelter, taking aim as I spotted a hunched shape peering around the bar. Being shot in the foot hurts. The man let out a shriek, but I was already rising, my fist swinging round to deck the other guard I had sent sneaking up beside me as I sprinted to the bar. I tackled the still writhing man and found his glass jaw before he could fumble for his radio. He couldn't have been old enough to vote, let alone be put in charge of a gun. I pocketed the bullets before tossing the gun to the dumbwaiter, well out of his reach. See? I can be a responsible adult, when I want to be. My composure hadn't altered a fraction. I brushed a stray lock of hair from my face as I looked above me, inspecting the lights. There, high on the highest rig, I spotted one that sputtered and sparked while its companions shone in a circle around it. Fortunately for me, Le Serpent Rouge sported several levels, so my Spider-Woman routine could remain safely in the closet. I wondered if it had once been a warehouse or a factory. There was something too industrial about the architecture for it to have been purpose-built. I trod my way to the upper stories, to where the music was merely loud, not ear-splitting. Much to my frustration, the stairs to the topmost level were blocked, the pile of immovable crates and sound equipment making me long for lemur chromosomes. You never let that stop you before. Rather than snap a retort, I scouted around until I found a part of the balcony that was broken. It was the work of but a moment's deep breathing and focus to leap across the gap and hitch a ride on the main lighting rig. I clung on as it rode up and down like a slow-motion rodeo, not forgetting to keep my gaze fixed firmly on my hands and not the dance floor far below. Paint came away in specks of chafing grit, making my purchase uncomfortable, but eventually I managed to hoist myself from the rig to the highest level. A few pigeons warbled from their eyrie above a control booth. I tried the door. It was locked, but after a sigh I simply shouldered my way through. It was quicker and a lot more humane than going through every guard in the place to find a key. Perhaps I just attract levers. I tested the instrumentation spread out along one wall. After several false starts, the dud light slid along its rails into a service junction within easy reach. It came as some surprise when my rummaging uncovered nothing more remarkable than a wooden trinket box, the cheap kind you find in flea markets the world over. I shook it gently, but the lid was glued shut. I would have to break it to find out what was rattling in there. Somehow I doubt Pierre would be impressed by our delivery of matchwood. Better leave it alone. Agreed. Suddenly I glanced out, back down at the dance floor. The guard I had shot was dragging himself across to a phone behind the bar, leaving a red trail as he crawled. I ducked back into the booth, sliding the box into the inner pocket of my jacket as I smashed the emergency lock on a second door. I could only pray they hadn't got a good look at me and wouldn't report a brunette denim-clad thief to Bouchard. With practice motions, I hopped down the fire escape, glad to be out in the fresh air, and dropped to the street, pressing myself against the alley wall as I got my breath back. All of a sudden, I felt it. A low, rhythmic growl that thrilled and terrified me in equal measure. I peered around the corner, winning my own bet. There really is no more satisfying a sound than 1,000 cc's purring into life. He saw me too. The stranger from the cafe, astride the machine not 10 paces away, holding the handlebars like the reins of a stallion as he met my eye. For an instant he smiled, a smile on loan from the devil himself. Then he kicked that beast into life and revved past me in a cloud of exhaust fumes. My fists were clenching as I strode from the alley, the rapidly fading rumble of his engine the only sound echoing down the street. My watch said I'd only been inside a matter of minutes, though it felt a lot longer. He had been waiting for me. But why? I'd seen the way he carried himself, the way an ex-soldier or even Marine would do. Dangerous and subtle. I hadn't realised he was there until he wanted me to see him. Perhaps he had followed me all morning, or even last night. Had he been witness to Werner's death and Carvier's murder? I shuddered. Had I just stood by and watched a murderer escape?
Did you? Everything go okay?
Now, a little matter of Bouchard's whereabouts.
Oh, Bouchard. Yes.
You aren't going to disappoint me, are you, Pierre? You remember what I said about dangerous?
No, it's just that someone else was asking for him just after you left. The customer in the corner reading his paper. I couldn't tell him anything naturally, but he may have overheard us.
You know, you talk real loud, Pierre. It's hard not to notice it.
Okay, easy. Can we still make a deal?
Only if you behave. And keep things to yourself from now on.
All right. Bouchard is lying low. I know someone who can show you where.
You can trust them?
Just about. Name of Francine. She's my ex. This is her address and the key code for the gate.
And she can point me to Bouchard? You sure?
Absolutely. She knows a discreet route from the back of the premises.
Discreet? Translation: dangerous.
Nothing in Paris is safe. This route will get you where you need to go. Please? It's arranged. She's expecting you.
I snatched the scrap of paper he held out with Francine's number on it. My imagination boiled with all manner of threats, but it was hardly worth the bother. I settled instead for a contemptuous sneer as I turned on my heel and left. Janice was right. The guy was a total loser. But at least now I had a lead, a name, a number. Rue Dominique, a place overlooking the old St. Accard's church just down the street. I took a deep, steadying breath, and once more touched the amulet under my shirt as I summoned my reserves. I only hoped Bouchard laid on breakfast.
In episode 3 of Tomb Raider, The Angel of Darkness, Lara Croft and Janice were played by J.R. Milward. Pierre was played by Adamm Khuevrr, written and adapted by J.R. Milward. Based on an original story by Murti Schofield, with music by Peter Connolly and Martin Iverson. Additional sound effects courtesy of www.freesfx.co.uk and the BBC. Produced by Stephen Milward. Lara Croft and Tomb Raider are the property of Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix.